Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 585 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Aaron Burt, and today we talk about how to find your true north. Stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I have Dr. Aaron Burt on with me, coming from Panamá. First ever interview from Panama. So I'm really excited to have you on. We built a relationship down in Mexico City, and we were participating with a bunch of amazing chiropractors down in Mexico for a couple of events now. So we've gotten to know each other the past couple of years. Really amazing. I can't wait to tell your story. Before we tell your story, though, I want to let people know our why. Why do we do what we do? Well, what makes us unique is we do protect freedom of speech. We believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. Those are things that are not the same, but chiropractic helps facilitate and people having a choice on how they take care of their family's health. It is amazing what chiropractors do. So if you're listening to this, please consider finding a chiropractor for yours and your family's health. As we get a bit more philosophical, we do protect BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. I think that it's really important for people to know what that is, kind of like finding the chemistry of life of Reggie Gold. Go to YouTube, check out the chemistry of life, watch that, but also find BJ Palmer's last words and find the Sacred Trust, because, you know, those are things that really are fundamental to this profession to explain what chiropractic really is. It'll be a great refresher for the chiropractor, but also somebody that doesn't know what chiropractic is. They'll be like, dang, that's really cool. I didn't know that people in chiropractic had a philosophy. We support subluxation-based chiropractic. We believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical, get adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And that's our why. Why do we do it here? We do it at Chiro Hustle because we believe in telling the chiropractic truth. We've created a depository of information over the past 6.5 years. And this is 585 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Welcome, Dr. Aaron.
Thank you, Jim. It is an honor to be with you here this afternoon, my brother.
Yeah, there's so much great stuff to talk about. We were talking about, transition of your practice style from now to then. And let's just talk like 23 years in high volume practice. What got you to the point that you're like, I think I should be a chiropractor?
Jim, I used to tell students this all the time. I really wish I could come on here and tell you this miracle story that, I was born, different and I got adjusted and my arm grew, or, there's so many amazing stories in the chiropractic profession that are just mind blowing. And that was not my story. My story is totally different. I had been introduced to chiropractic when I was 15 years old. I had a wrestling injury. My father actually took me to see a local chiropractor, and he worked on my neck, and my shoulder pain went away. I was like, wow, this is great. I don't have to take some stupid drug, and I could go back to wrestling, and that was pretty cool. And I went off to college, and I was just living my life and doing my thing, and my sister started dating a chiropractor. She met this guy, this amazing guy. His name's Dr. Andrew Dixon. I don't know if you've ever met Andy. He was the president of the Tennessee Chiropractic Association. So shout out to Dr. Andrew Dixon, an amazing guy. He had just gotten into practice. He had moved into our town. He fell in love with my sister. They started dating, and he became a big brother to me. He was just the coolest guy in the world, dating my older sister. Had this great practice, wellness, health. He was an ex-football player, wrestler. I really, to this day, I look up to this guy. And, he was like, Aaron, you would be a great chiropractor. You should think about chiropractic. Well, I was like, Andy, I've gone through 4 years of college. I can't start again. And out of the blue, one day he calls me. I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he calls me from Nashville. And he said, hey, I just got a copy of today's Chiropractic, and there's an ad that Life Atlanta is going to be doing an accelerated prereqs program for college students who want to get into the profession. And it was 1 year of sciences to get in. And I was in my 4th year of university. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I loved the idea of doing what he was doing. And because he was a cool guy and he was making money and everybody loved to hang out with him and be in his office. And I would go get adjusted and I loved being there. So he was really the inspiration for me to get into the profession. So I went to Life in Atlanta, and then that changed my entire life, because in that class with me, I had 2 very significant people that really woke me up. The first person that I met that really opened my eyes was Carrie Sigafus, the youngest son of Dr. Jim Sigafus. And, I met Carrie, I know Carrie's. Carrie's an amazing human being. And, we met 20 years old, and he's talking about this chiropractic lifestyle thing from Jim. And I was just blown away. Me and Carrie sitting in the back of the class, and he's telling me what this is all about. And then the other person that I met who had probably the biggest impact of all was Dr. Jason Deitch. And I'm sure most people watching this probably know of Jason and all the things he's done for the profession. Jason, as a student, was just talking to me. It was like, man, you have no idea where you're at. You have no idea of your potential. Jason one day said, you have so much potential, you should run for class president. And he was like, when you harness this potential and you start understanding what this is all about, you're going to be unstoppable. And so it was really those 2, once I got into Life, that really just were hit the switch. And I was like, wow, this is much bigger than I thought.
So Life after Life, what happens?
So, I went to Life Atlanta, and then I transferred and I went out to San Francisco to do I finished up at Life West, and I got a job offer in Guatemala. Went down to work. I actually worked a year, had some ups and downs, some difficulties down there. I just knew I wanted to be somewhere in the world. I wanted to be moving. I wanted to be traveling. And I was there for a year. Things didn't work out like I had hoped they would work out. And I came back home. And so this is before the internet was in big use. We're talking 1997. And I called the university, and are there any jobs, international offers? And on the job board at Life West was an offer for a job in Zaragoza, Spain. And, I was learning Spanish in Guatemala. I wanted to keep on doing something different. So I called this doctor, Dr. Frank Spencer, and I called him up and said, hey, I'm looking for a job. And he said, I've got a great spot. There's only one chiropractor in the city. If you get here, I'll give you the interview. So my dad bought me a plane ticket. I got on a plane. I flew to Zaragoza, and I was there for over 23 years.
So 23 years in Spain. Now you're down in Panama. So,
Yes.
What was it like to practice abroad? I mean, that must be like a really cool thing for people to hear, like, because I know that the people do that, but you were kind of before like the time of, 23 years ago. Nobody was really traveling and practicing abroad, were they?
When I got to Spain, there was about 30 chiropractors in the country. And
That's how many, that's about how many are in Portugal now, by the way.
Yeah. There were about 30 in the country. And, like I said, I went into a city, there was one chiropractor for 800,000 people. I ended up not working for him. I ended up opening my own practice. But, the thing is that it's totally unknown, which is the worst part and the best part. no one had any idea what chiropractic was, which also means they didn't have any negative opinion. They didn't have any medical doctors saying, oh, this is for back pain. They didn't have any preconceived idea. They knew nothing. So, I come in onto the scene, and, my wife at that time, the mother of my children, an amazing woman by the name of Pilar, she was a natural salesman. She knows she could sell ice to an Eskimo, and she knew what I was doing, and she had felt it, and she had seen it with her family. And she took over and started really spreading the word, getting people in. People just didn't know what was going on. So they were coming to me, and I was their first impression of chiropractic. And their first impression, and we just spoke about this off camera, they had to come in, they had to go through my health class, and they were getting Reggie Gold's Chemistry of Life in Spanish from day one. That was their introduction to chiropractic. And so being abroad allowed me to do that, because anywhere I went into the States, everyone's already formed an opinion. If either their brother-in-law's been to a chiropractor, their cousin dates a chiropractor, or they've seen the Simpsons episode of the chiropractor. But you go to a foreign country, no one had any idea who I was or what I was doing. They were just seeing the results.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to hear. Like, you came into like a new charted territory. You followed your true north, like we were talking about off camera. Like, you followed a path that made sense to you.
That's right.
And did you speak Spanish before you went over there?
I did not. That was tough. I went to Guatemala to learn how to speak Spanish, and I'll tell you a funny story. I went one day with my girlfriend at that time we wanted to rent a horse to go horseback riding. And so instead of saying I want to rent a horse, which is caballo, I said I want to rent a caballero, which in Spanish means a gentleman. And so imagine the laugh that everyone at the equestrian center had, asking me, do you have experience riding gentlemen? What type of gentleman? I thought he was saying horse. So no, I spoke zero Spanish, and I had to learn, and luckily I got to Spain, and right away I met an amazing woman, and people ask me, how did you learn Spanish so quickly? And I said, the two things that will teach you a foreign language quicker than anything in the world will be an upset stomach needing a bathroom, or a beautiful person looking for romance. You'll learn quickly. And she didn't speak a lick of English, and I said, yeah, I can wing it on note cards speaking to clients, but I better learn some Spanish. So I learned pretty quickly.
What a fun story. Lots of laughter over here. So now you're transitioning from high volume. You said you did over 500,000 adjustments in 23 years while you ran that practice in Spain. And now you've had this like transition.
Yes.
Talk about how you got to Panama now.
Okay. So, as I went through my journey in life, chiropractic was great, and I got invited to start teaching, and I was teaching philosophy and personal development at Barcelona Chiropractic College. And I just really started tapping into this part of me that loves to teach and loves to, help people on their journey. And so after lockdown, after COVID, I really knew that it was my time to start expanding and growing. Also, I've been away from the States for over 20 years, where my parents are, where my brothers and sisters are, where my family is. My kids were moving into college. And so I was like, I really want to go back to the other side of the pond. I want to be closer to my parents. I want to be closer to Latin America. My wife, she's Colombian. She wanted to be close to her family. So we knew that it was time to leave Europe. And I actually thought that Mexico was going to be the place for me. And so I went to Mexico, and I was on a beach. I was in Puerto Escondido, Mexico, and a former student of mine from Barcelona Chiropractic College, a young gentleman from Israel, his father called me because I had done some extra special work supporting his son emotionally. And his father called me and invited me on a surfing trip to Panama. And I had never even put Panama on my radar. So I came here on a surfing trip, and I found this beautiful little beach community, 250 people, permanent residents. And they just needed help. They needed love. And, I was beyond my days of wanting to have a big practice, of doing, and so I just rented a small space and have a couch and a table. And I began to do what I love to do, which is help guide people and release blockages. And that eventually led me into this phase of transition that I'm in life now.
Well, going back to subluxation, chemistry of life, and the way that people generally get into a chiropractic office, it's physical, chemical, or emotional stress. And a lot of times I call it heal on the healer. Like the people that do the big work, they don't know where to go or who to trust either. And then they have massive blockages when it comes to making decisions on what do we do with my family? What do I do with the kids? How do I integrate with my romantic partner? How do I make sense of my finances? Where should I live? Like you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times there's a lot of unknown. And I know that that's a place that you're starting to develop professionals in and use some of your experiences and, your life's work, not only as a chiropractor, but as a spiritual guide now. And you have a program called Advanced Life Navigation. Tell people about like what that really means to you and how you've been helping people.
Well, Advanced Life Navigation, let me just tell you quickly how it came about. I had a gentleman come into my little office here on the beach in Panama, and a gentleman in his late 60s, and he came in because he had back issues, and we started speaking about life, and I started telling him the things that I was picking up on his physical body from his personal life, and he had an epiphany, and he realized that there was a change in his personal life that he had been avoiding that was not allowing him to heal. And I had picked up on that. And it turns out that this gentleman runs one of the world's largest coaching companies for CEOs. And so he and I developed a very strong friendship, mentorship. And he began training me on how he coaches CEOs. Okay, so just to give you some perspective, he was the CEO coach of the CEO of Pfizer during pandemic. That was the level he was working at. So he's working with me, teaching these techniques to coach CEOs, and then all of a sudden his life hits a massive personal crisis. So what I did was take these tools that he was teaching me, and I started using them in the way that I know how to use them, which is connect people to spirituality and personal development. And this is how Advanced Life Navigation was born. And really what it's based on, Jim, is figuring out what you're really passionate about in life and developing a concept which is called your true north, which is where do you really want to go in this story that you're calling your life? Truly and honestly, not where does society want you to go. And I realized that I had gone there. I was 34 years old, I was seeing 850 to 900 clients a week. And on the biggest day of my career, I was going to commit suicide that night. I was literally going to hang myself. That night, I'd seen 287 patients that day because I had made it to a point in my life that everyone told me you want to get there. And I got there and it was empty. So now that I've been there and I've been able to go through that, now my mission in life is to help people find what their passion is and to help them find their authentic life story and then help them write that because that will become the life that they're living. And this is what I do.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle. So curious, you get somebody through this mentorship. How frequent do you see somebody say, "This is great, I'm ready to go down this way," and then they're like, "All right, now I need the next thing"? Like, do you see people continuously, like, we call it polishing the gem? Do you see people
all the time?
Yeah.
From the beginning. That's why the program that I use, I have a set, it's 12 sessions and you're done, and we are done. I'll check up on you, but there's no way I'm going to allow you to develop a dependency and addiction on me. And usually, Jim, the people, when they make it to me, they have been through so many other things, just like when they made it to me as a chiropractor. So before I will let anyone start working with me, and we begin to dance together, we have to go through a serious interview process to make sure that they are ready to make the changes. Socrates said, the patient has to be ready to face the true cause of his illness in order to change. So when someone reaches out to me, they're going to have to be willing for me to ask those tough questions about, are they really ready to change their life? Because if they're not, I don't want them wasting their time and their money on time with me. Their time is too valuable, and mine as well. So I really only want to work with those people who are ready to make a change in their life. They know that it's there. They just need that extra tweak to really dial into it and to find their true north.
Well, I think a lot of times people just they just get stuck, and they don't know how to, like, navigate themselves because of the financial burdens that they're, like, experiencing, or the relationship, like, disconnect that they're experiencing. They're like, kind of throw their hands up in the air moments where I've had, coaches, and, people are thinking this. I've had coaches and mentors, and I've been in management groups and whatever it might be. Like, how do you help extract people from that?
Well, what we do, Jim, what we do is we really go into, what is the story that you're telling is your life? This life that you're telling, the Jim Chester that people know, comes from the story that you're telling. This is your life. So we need to sit down and understand, where did you learn how to tell that story? Who taught you that that's the story that you need to be telling? Because at the end of the day, the story that you're telling, you started telling it because you wanted to feel loved and supported in this world. That's what you wanted, and that's what you looked for as a child. So we build these personas based on that story. And yet we're chasing this thing called love that we don't even know what it is. So society is designed to say it's a new car, it's a new wife, it's $1 million practice, it's a trip to Fiji. And you get all these things and you don't feel the love. So we sit down and we actually look at that innocent child at 5 years old, at 4 years old, that was alone, creative, remembering source. What did they dream about? Who was that child? What is still in there? What is that little spark of greatness? Because when we find that and we blow on that, we can reignite the soul. And that will stay with us forever.
I think that's really amazing. I think a lot of times people just don't know. And chiropractors that will listen to this, they'll be like, wow, this sounds like something I could really benefit from, because I mean, everybody could use somebody to help them find the keys to the door, and to help them turn the key, and to help them walk inside of it if they can't see. And I think that, get the embers glowing again and blow it, and then you have fire. And I think a lot of times people just need somebody to help them find out how to make fire again.
Yeah, it's not, and that's why, I really shy away from the word coaching and some of these things, because it's like, let me show you how to go and chop down wood. And no, it's not about that at all. That fire is still inside of you. If you have a pulse, if you woke up today and you have a pulse, the ember is glowing in your heart. It's there.
It's all the method. It's the method.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really cool. Let's transition back to a little bit of chiropractic for the last 7 minutes.
Of course.
I love that you have a solid practice that you're in love with down in Panama. And I love that you were able to transition from your high volume lifestyle of being a practice, like running a practice with your wife, it sounds like. I know you said that she was a huge champion early on and helping you grow the practice. How did you sustain marketing? Like, that's something I'm really curious about.
Well, for us, luckily, I built my entire practice with no external marketing. It was all internal marketing. And so really, the most important thing that we did was educate them from the beginning. And it's still that way. I was just back visiting. Last week, we had the 25th anniversary. The doctor who bought the practice invited me back. And on Monday night, I gave that health talk to 10 new aspiring practice members, just like I taught him to do it. And they still do it the exact same way. So for me, that was the key. And I knew that on week 3, between week 3 and week 4, they were going to be feeling better. That the person is changing. So on week 3, week 4, I would do an evaluation on the practice member. And in that evaluation, I would ask them, do you remember the health talk that you went through? Yes, they did. What stood out in that health talk that you remember? I remember this and that. Don't you wish someone would have told you to come listen to this talk 6 months ago or a year ago when that problem started? Yeah, I wish so. Who do you know? Because I know you know somebody. Who do you know that needs to come and listen to this? Please tell that person. Okay, tell 2 people, because 1 will come.
I mean, honestly, going back to the basics, this is really powerful. And I've done 1,200 interviews and no one's explained it this way. And I go back to like trying to like crack the code for everybody as to like, what can you do to like, grow your business, the chiropractic business. And what my takeaway from what you just shared there is, your new patient orientation talk is just as valuable as the time of adjusting hours. And if you don't do the other, you don't get the other. Like, you have to pay your time on the new patient orientation and that relationship bonding experience and that educational transferring experience in order to be able to have better adjusting time hours.
That's
And
it.
they work off of each other for the internal marketing.
That's it. And then we built a practice off that, and that practice still runs today.
Super cool. Like, that's the why we do this show, because there's going to be a gem that I learned from you that I can now teach other people on how to be better chiropractors and to have more fun. I picked up an acronym from a guy named Joe Polish, and it's ELF: easy, lucrative, and fun. And the ELF life, if people can implement that, they're going to have a better North Star approach to life. Like if we can teach people how easy, lucrative, and fun chiropractic can be, they get then to have the life of their dreams.
That's it.
And they can practice when they want to, the type of people they want to take care of, and they can inspire people. And you know, that's the thing. At my last interview, I was like, hey, how many times did you create a chiropractor because of your new patient orientation and you got them to love the profession? He's like, a lot. I was like, how many times did you create a chiropractor from your CAs because they sat into your new patient orientations and they learned from you, and then they went on to become a chiropractor? He's like, a lot. And I think that's it. It's these things create incubators.
Yep.
And when you incubate from the inside and you do it properly and you do a proper new patient orientation lecture, you incubate. But now what you've done is you've planted the seed inside of that patient to see the promise and truth of chiropractic. And then they become apologists and advocates and apostles for the message of chiropractic. And then your staff sees that too. And that behavior starts to build and build and build. And now we have the future chiropractors that were created because the doctor believed in the new patient orientation time was just as valuable as the adjusting hours.
Jim, I just sat in my office on Friday. I gave a talk to 30 people on last Friday night, and most of those people had been clients of mine and are active in the practice for over 15 years. Active members of the practice.
Yeah,
that's the power of a good first health class.
And a lot of docs quit doing them because they don't like doing them.
It's the key. That's like, I don't like opening my front door.
But here it is, Dr. Aaron. All those people that will listen to this episode and they start doing that, they're going to fall back in love with their practice and they'll be more connected to the people. And that's really what it's about, is connection.
Yeah, they're going to fall in love with who they are when they are a chiropractic warrior. They're going to fall in love with who they are when they find their mission and the reason why they got into this amazing profession in the first place.
I love it, man. I love it so much. I know that we're just over our time together, but let's see if we can go lightning round on a couple of topics.
Let's rock.
What do you think the next decade of chiropractic looks like to you?
To me, or chiropractic in general?
Chiropractic in general, because that's the audience that's listening.
It looks like the last decade. Just like it. The people, it's the individual listener that creates change in the world. People are going to come into the profession for the right reasons for them, for money, for this, for that, and the other. And yet there are going to be these gems out there, these awakening souls that are going to come in, these sparks of life, and create these life-changing beacons of healing on the planet. That's what we're going to see.
Yeah, I kind of repeat a lot, but not all the time, but there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. I've heard that for a long time. You've heard it since day one.
Yep, it's true. It's true from day one.
Yeah, and if we don't say that, somebody might miss somebody with wisdom sharing something with them. So I find that some of these, this rhetoric, like that's inside of the profession, we still have to say it. And we still have to tell people to tell the story. And the reason that your marketing efforts internally worked is because all you did is told the chiropractic story.
Yeah.
So telling the story still works. And there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. And that's what we were talking about, like before we started this interview, the mutual appreciation for each other. Yes, we can just say something and see the other one smile because we know it makes sense to us. And that translates to making sense to other people.
That's right.
And, I think BJ Palmer said it the best. I love you because you love what I love. And that's chiropractic.
There we go.
And I think a lot of times people just need to hear people like the kids say, chop it up and talk about a topic that matters. And really, that was why I started this 6.5 years ago, because I said somebody has to take the keys to the kingdom and talk about chiropractic. Could somebody just do that? And I saw one guy doing it, and I was like, I think I need to do that too.
There you
So
go.
I saw my mentor, Ed Osborne, doing the chiropractic philanthropist,
Mhm.
and I saw how he was growing a community and how he is serving. And I was like, dang, I think I can do that thing too. And now we have a very authentic approach to how we tell the chiropractic story. And we get chiropractors coming on from all facets of the chiropractic, the chirosphere. And it's a beautiful thing that we built this tapestry of this message. So I just really appreciate you being on with me today. And thanks for talking about your transition from Spain to doing your advanced life navigation and being in Panama. And I just think it's been really powerful. I appreciate you spending your hour with me and talking to me about all things chiropractic.
Yeah, Jim, every time you and I spend an hour together, some amazing things come out. So the rest of that, we'll keep that between us, because there's been some beautiful memories together, my brother.
Yeah, and the thing is when people listen, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah.
And when you can draw in good people to listen to,
Yeah.
that makes it even better.
Oh, without a doubt. And I can't leave without just reminding you that when the mic broke and I had to come up on stage and be your translator in Mexico City, and that was the most fun. We had so much fun on that stage. I'll never forget that moment.
Yeah, that's what makes our future, is the things that we've experienced and the fun times we've had. I can't wait for more of them with you.
Yes, sir.
I know we have a long road ahead of us together. If people wanted to reach out to you, learn more about you, connect with you, find more about your program, where do we send them to?
I've got a small webpage called advancedlifenavigation.com. And that's where I have some information about my programs. And also I do a little bit on Instagram, not a lot, and that we'll have that in the link, and it's Dr._Aaron_Burt. And I put some teachings and some guidance up on there, but mostly they can find my information at advancedlifenavigation.com.
Advancedlifenavigation.com, guys. Dr. Aaron Burt on Instagram, Dr.Aaron_Burt. Check him out. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to share with our audience today?
Yes, there was. There was a question on the list that you didn't ask me. It was if I could go back and talk to any of historical figure from chiropractic, who would it be? And in the chiropractic adjuster, Didi talks about a friend of his, Colleyville, who was a spiritualist, who met a secret society in Paris that did something similar to chiropractic at the end of the 18th century. I would love to go meet that guy and ask him, who did you meet? Who was this secret society of mystics that were doing something like chiropractic that you met? I would love to go talk with that guy.
Well, I can just use my own interpretation. It probably became Thurman Fleet's work of the zone technique with concept therapy.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation, because really when you start working with the subconscious and you start working with the nervous system and you start working with the realm that people live in with pain and suffering, that's what chiropractic has always done.
Yeah.
So I'd be really curious to see that form of chiropractic before chiropractic also.
Yeah. Who was doing that? Where did that come from? Yeah. I've always wondered.
Like, how were they studying?
Yeah. Where did it come from? Where was that knowledge? Yeah. That's what I would like to know.
Really cool deep dive, man. So I will close out with this is episode 585 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. You guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much, Dr. Aaron. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.